International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOIL and Agricultural Development Bank.
Coming up on International Trade Focus.
We're bringing you highlights of the International Women's Day brunch organized by the UK GCC. As part of International Women's Day, the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce UK GCC organized an International Women's Day brunch to commemorate the day and reaffirm its commitment to breaking down barriers and creating opportunities for women to thrive economically. The event comprised 3 parts: a panel discussion featuring prominent women leaders, an interactive session, and finally, a networking session. Stay tuned for the highlights of this event on this week's edition of International Trade Focus. International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOIL, Good Energy, ADB, Truly Agric and more, Public Elegance and Pediasi Valley Resort. My name is Anaskio. On today's episode, we're bringing you highlights of the International Women's Day brunch organized by the UK GCC. Coming up next is a panel discussion on the theme Invest in Women, Advancing Women's Economic Empowerment, featuring prominent women leaders and experts from diverse sectors.
Today is about empowering women, inspiring women, investing in women, so that we see more and more women doing things that women haven't done before. Because we know that's good for all of us, not just good for women, it's good for the whole of society. And on that note, I'm really pleased to see that we have plenty of men in our audience today too. Thank you so much for being here with us. Too often we see groups of women talking about gender equality. But we know that, as I say, it's not just a women's issue, it's something that matters for the whole of society. Unless the whole of society is included, the whole of society leaves it out. So we're really glad that we've got men here too. Let me thank the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, together with the British High Commission colleagues, for organising today's event. I know they put a lot of work in it. We're really, really pleased to have representatives from government agencies, from member companies to our Chamber of Commerce, from women's rights organisations and many more amongst the audience. And I'm really glad that we've got that mix, because it's only by coming together, by that collaboration that we get across sectors, we'll really be able to achieve to the maximum. So today on International Women's Day, the theme that we gathered to think about is the theme that the women of Ghana has taken to International Women's Day. Invest in women, advancing women's economic empowerment. So we're here to celebrate the remarkable achievements of women right the way across the world, to reaffirm our commitment to doing what each of us as individuals and as individual organisations can do to further that advancement, and to remember to acknowledge that there is more progress to be made. So we're looking forward to an inspiring conversation. We will start with a panel discussion, but we will open it up relatively quickly to questions from all of you and to your points of view as well. So keep thinking about what you want to ask our panel members. So we've got a group of women from various different ages. I'm going to ask you to reflect on and just share one of the major barriers that you have had to overcome in order to get to where you are today. And then perhaps as we go through the conversation, we can come back to that and understand what has helped you to overcome that barrier. So should we start with you? I believe that having been able to get to this level all by myself, I've had a lot of support. And this I think is very important. One of the key barriers that I've been able to overcome to get to this end is really making sure that I believe in myself and also taking advantage of the people around me and learning from them. Mentoring and coaching has really supported me. I recall early on in my career, I had a boss who was interested in my development. sat down with me and made me aware of what I need to do to succeed. It has really helped me. So for me, it becomes on me to also lift as I rise. And it's my responsibility as a woman to ensure that I also mentor others, give them the coaching. People they know what they want to do, but they just need guidance. They just need somebody to coach them. So thank you.
Now, to give you a bit of a background about me, I went to a legal secondary school. We call it home. I went to legal secondary school from Form 1 Upper 6 and left for England. Now, I got called to the bar in England, worked in the US a little bit, and returned to Ghana in 2004. Now, when I returned to Ghana in 2004, went to Makola, got called to the bar in Ghana, and I started working in the law firm. Now, I'm taking you through this journey just to show you some of the challenges that are in our legal profession or in a woman's life. So that is 2004. I started working in a law firm. It's my second law firm, JLB and NB Legal Consultancy. So at that time, I had just gotten married, and the first day of work, I found out I was pregnant. And so imagine this journey, your first job in a youth company, when you're pregnant, and the morning sickness was making me avoid the partners of the firm because their perfume would set me off. Now, just that little experience, it took 3 to 4 months for me to get over that. And during that period, the partner I was reporting to years later used to say, I need to find it so weird, because you would never stay with me for a long time, and you were always moving. And I said, yes, because I couldn't stand your perfume. But 4 years down the line, I felt I needed to move on. After doing a lot of transactions at that digital firm, I would move on to another place. I started interviewing for roles. At the time, I had convinced myself that the next role I was going to take was going to be a head of legal position in a corporate. So I had several offers from banks and other telcos, and it was always a senior legal manager position. And I would say, I don't want it. I feel I'm ready to be head of the job. So after finding a job from one of the telcos, the gentleman who had interviewed me called me and said, find our offer, but I think there's a new company coming to Ghana, and you might work perfectly with them. So if you don't mind going to start with this startup, I will send your CV to them. And I said, okay, do that. I went for the interview, and that was American Tower Corporation, ATC Tower, and I was their head of legal for 7 years and company secretary. Now, at the end of the 7-year period, it was a wonderful experience once again. This is a main corporate listed company in New York, so all the compliance issues, everything had to be top-notch, and you had to be on top of the game. But one day, I went for a meeting where I was being introduced to a new CEO of the company, and one of our African heads said, oh, that's way for her. She's like a warm blanket to us, and she's always there. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a warm blanket. I want to be considered as the person who is being considered for the next big role. So that triggered my mind to say, no, it's time to move on. I can't be a warm blanket in this place. So I then moved on and went into a partnership, in-house, out of the public role, with legal and consulting. So I was there with the couple of blessed memory for 3 years. And then I set up my own law firm 4 years ago with my husband as the other co-owner of the firm, Quantum and Quantum Legal Advisors. Now, this journey for me is ask the question, how has it, or what are the barriers we face? I think the key thing for me that women face in their professional journey is about when a woman wants to be in the family. I feel that easily stops a woman from moving on. And if you don't get the support externally in your family or within the corporate environment where they are willing to make little adjustments for you to be able to come back to what you work with the firm, and most of them are in their 20s. One who is very brilliant has had a baby in September. He was to return to work in December, and she called and said, I don't have any help, and there is no way I can come back to work. And I have the whole of January off. And I said, okay, I'll give you the whole of January. Come February, I said, I still don't have help. I am happy to work from home for a few days a week if we can accommodate that. And I said, well, of course the alternative is to lose this brilliant lawyer and let her be thinking, oh, I need to go looking for another job. So accommodate that. So she can't work twice a week, and the rest of the day she works from home so that you can support her baby. So I think those are some of the little steps that we need to take. I started as a teacher. Actually, that was my profession. Daddy was a teacher, and Daddy was the smartest daughter to be a teacher as well. So I grew up as a teacher. I was lucky to get a husband. In no time, I had to be taken out of my father's house. I moved to his house. Family life started immediately. I worked as a teacher for about 18 years, but whilst I was working as a teacher, I had my own, what do I call this? This is a passion that had been with me, I am told, from age about 3, because from age 3 years, in 5 years, if I get hold of a handkerchief, I place it on the ground, I trace the pattern of the dress. Then use any sharp tool I get to cut out the pattern and then flaunt it on me, but I have made a dress. So this had been a passion with me, and so starting my family life, I had my small sewing machine still beside me. I go to school, I come from school, I attend to the family. Then I find myself locked up in my garage to carry on my passion. Been going on for 18 years, and then finally I decided that I think I want to go loud on my passion. And so I had to lay down my feet at the feet. We're talking of obstacles, barriers. I had lost my father at the time. I know in the tradition, daddy dies and somebody takes over daddy's responsibility. And that's my biggest brother. So I go to my biggest brother and tell my biggest brother that sad daddy is gone, but I reached a stage I want to put aside the profession he put me through because I want to carry on my passion. Have you thought about it straight? And I said yes. Have you put in place all opportunity to make sure that you're not coming back again? I said yes. What does your husband say about it? I said he supports me fully. Okay, give me time to think about it. How long would I let this man think about this? In the meantime, my little passion was going on side by side. Before he could call me and say that I bless you to go, a little shop had started somewhere. And I was still going on. Verse had to go on, and on, and on, and the children had the privilege of having money by them all the time. There was money now, they're doing their own business. Until a couple of years ago, when I said, well, I want this little way too long. And so now a bigger factory has to be built. And so as we talk, I have my company, the company is Syndex. My name is Cynthia, my husband is Dex, and so in the college name, Cynthia and Dex. So we have Syndex. Syndex has a factory with a full capacity of 258 people. We have just started, and as we're talking, we have 120 operators with us. Out of the 120 operators, about 102 of them are women. Today we are enrolling 6 partially impaired hearing people in our factory. For now, what we're doing, we're doing both mixed and woven fabrics. We are highlighting on the net, if you ask me, I'll tell you, taking advantage of political season, trying to see if we can attempt to prevent the importation of t-shirts and mascots of political campaigns. So this is what we are doing in our small way. As if recently on your able to take off and from the pieces of one with teachers a day. And this is a factory that has been in existence, which started this next line that's about 4 months ago. We are proud to say that we have put in place a new measure, or I would say I have put in place a new measure, and to the extent that we have a foreign buyer that is visiting our factory in the next 1 month. Our anticipation is that we shall be able to meet all the standards so that by the next of this year, we shall be able to start exporting our furniture to the world of them. Thank you so much for your time. There are a whole lot of barriers I've had to go through to get to this level. One, as I have spoken about, is a family structure. We need to get over that. I've learned my lesson and I'll make sure that I do not do this to any of my children. You've had the freedom to choose which way you wanted to go. The bit of direction and counseling that I went to make sure that you go into the bridge. But then your passion, your aspiration, you had a right to take over. And that is why even before Pear will be without be proud to introduce the lady written by me as my daughter, who had the privilege to go as she would, and coincidentally has the privilege to sit by me today as a co-panelist on this program. Thank you. Prior to my role, I spent over 12 years in London, working for a company called Goldman Sachs in investment banking. I took a trip to Ghana about 7-8 months ago to work for a company called CA2. So that interest in oil and gas, real estate, financial services, environmental services, and technology. And Gold created one of the subsidiaries of CA2. So that's how I am the managing director of Gold Properties. In terms of the challenge or barrier I've had in my career, I think a lot has been said by, I think it's one of my mom, I think Ellen O'Keefe. But I think Indira Lee, who was the MD of CEO of Pepsi for a while, once said that the woman's biological clock and their career clock run entirely opposite. And so for me, I'm 35 years now, and so a lot of my childbearing years have been the same years I had to work after in my career. And so it was a very difficult couple of years doing that. But I had a lot of great mentors, great sponsors, and fantastic support at home with my husband and my parents, and it made it a bit easier. But I think that it's often said that when a woman has a baby, it sets her career back 2 or 3 years. I mean, this is the thing that between her and her male counterpart. I'm very clear that hasn't been the case, but it has been a very delicate and very difficult process for that not to happen. So for me, that would be the biggest barrier with trying to build a family and trying to find a career.
Thank you so much. It's been really interesting to hear from each of you the different barriers that we've selected. And we've heard about the barriers that we put on ourselves. We've heard about the barriers that our biology puts on us. And we've heard about the barriers that traditions, culture, expectations place on us. And when you look beyond your own experience, maybe to some of the women that you work with in your organization, maybe to some of the other women that you've grown up with in your towns across Ghana and your schools and so on, what would you say more generally in Ghana are some of the barriers that women are still grappling with when it comes to economic empowerment and realizing the needs for economic potential? And Dr. Sacco.
Going back to the little finish 20 something, little did I know that I would one day go to become a managing executive of a bank. For me, I think it's important that women really know what they want to be. Okay? And one of the key barriers have been poverty. Poverty and lack of education. Don't really have support. I recall at the point in my career when my parents, after the 1979 coup, they had to go through a lot of struggles because their businesses were not doing so well. I needed to go out there, sell, and be able to put the money together to help my education. So I think poverty is one of the key things that prevent women from achieving their goals. And also, I recall visiting the northern part of Tamale with one of my colleagues who was from, should I say, a less endowed community. And the lady, having got education and got the privilege to work, told me that, you know what we can do for this community to set up a computer lab for them. You have no idea what this computer lab did for the children in that community. Some are scientists now, some are even doctors now. So for me, I think poverty is one of the key barriers and lack of education. Then also, being digitally empowered is also very key, because if women are digitally empowered, they can take advantage of marketplace online platforms to sell their goods and also to ensure that they have access to markets and also expand their business and scale. So financial inclusion is also very key. In our part of the world, access to capital or funding is a challenge. And if women don't have that, it's difficult for them to scale their business. So I also see that as really one of the barriers to really empower women. That notwithstanding, frankly, banks like AXA, in partnership with Mastercard Foundation and others, are using the opportunity to really help empower women, where they are giving them financial management training. And I'm happy to say that we've trained over 1,623 women, and also we're giving them funding, capital, to really do business. As we speak now, giving out $32 million to women, empowering women, and this is about 2,200 women that we've empowered. So I think that if we give women the opportunity to really learn new skills and also support them financially, it will really lead to their empowerment. And I want to end by saying that we also need to look at policies that really support women. When I say policies, things like what Ghana Enterprises Agency is doing, being deliberate and intentional about supporting women, I think is very key, and that's what we need to women empowerment. And lastly, when a woman is educated, and I like what Trajan said, he said, you educate a man, you educate an individual, and apologies for the men here. But if you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. Because once a woman is empowered, he looks at the well-being of his children, the community, the country, and also the world and even the planet as a whole. So for me, I think women empowerment is key, and we need to give them the financial support that they need to be able to grow and scale. Thank you.
Thank you. Patient access to financing, and yes, she's right. The research does prove that if investments are given to women, if women are able to access microfinance even, it has a much stronger impact on the whole of the community than if that same amount of investment goes to men. Very interesting research. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to put that question to you, because you employ a lot of people, and in the garment and textile industry, a lot of those are likely to be women. So from the women that you work with, what do you see as being some of the barriers that they are facing?
Generally, some of the barriers are social moms and family. These two work together. I would say that before, for example, in the society, it's unfortunate, again, according to the men we have here, family life and raising children in Ghana have become the responsibility of the woman. And so I have operated as people who would come to work one Monday, simply don't see her one way, you see her, and it's because my child was this. I had to do this. My child was that. Meanwhile, there's a father at home, but it's always for women. When this is a family, it's a social mom. There's nothing I can do about it. Plan to cope with it by having extra people with training to be on the side. So that if a maid operator is not there to do, instead of giving the line to the handicap, you bring with somebody else to sit on a machine to be able to do the rest of the time. It is not right. But what I'm telling you, we cannot also say that it is the lady to stop work and do it. So the lady works at a big problem that the lady has to deal with. And therefore, as a company, I'm looking at getting something like a nursery, a daycare center, on the same compound, to be able to take care of these children, of these babies, because if I'm not able to take them away from their mothers, I cannot get the full, and I can't get the parents to, the lady to work in a company. So it becomes a problem for me. I give an example of a village I visited in the upper east of that is Dafiama. That's how I don't know if I'm pronouncing it very correctly, but that is Dafiama. I visited Dafiama, and what I saw, it had to do with leadership. When a woman loses her husband, she's to marry another man, that is a brother from the family. That is because they want property, they want children, not to go to the other side, but to remain in the mainstream family. And if this other person dies, even if 10 times the woman loses her husband, 10 times brothers in the family that to marry the woman. If finally there's nobody to marry the woman has to leave the house and go to widow's camp. And while they are in the widow's camp, they are, I'm sorry that I think the word that camp, they are rejected, they are not thought of, they are to center themselves there. Very little children are still with them. And so we have the public nuns of the community who are taking care of these people by putting them through skill training. They have a lot of show background, they have a lot of cola nuts, they have a lot of brown beans. And so they're putting them through the skill training of making all the soaps, all the oils out of this. I have brought in this just to show not only the lady operations of Syntax Limited, but as a country, the barriers that we have to go through, social and family norms that have to be overcome before the woman can have her liberation to whatever she has to do. Thank you.
Right, if you just tuned in, you're watching International Trade Focus, where we highlight the International Women's Day branch organized by the UK GCC. There's more after this break, so stay with us. A warm welcome back. Here are some more highlights from the UK GCC's International Women's Day branch. Right, so the second part included an interactive session that provided attendees the chance to ask questions covering financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and leadership development. Let's take a look.
My focus is more on education, and that's about what my other lady said. More on the points around education. And government has fantastic policies like the TSHS. But how many of that is, or how much of that policy is targeted to young girls, you understand? Because education is so key. Currently, you look at the same, science, technology, and math, engineering, it's such a huge gap. That area is so dominated with, males, and female girls feel like they would rather stick to the arts and the social programs. However, there's so much potential within them to make an impact in that space. But you don't foster, you don't encourage it. You even take our beloved Ghana Art and Science space. A lot of the time, at the final, stage, you see a lot of male schools and male-dominated contexts. There's such a huge gap in education, and I think the right place to target is policies that drive the girl-child education, encourage girl children to want to be in school, stay in school, and also pick up more on the STEM education. So policy directed towards that, and then private public organizations having more focus on girl-child education. We take that a long way in empowering women in the future. Thank you.
And my first question is to you, this is something that I mentioned, having mentorship and speaking to other women and empowering you and encouraging you. And I don't know about anyone, but it's kind of hard because it's very exactly I'm going to tell him, but you have the time to do it mentally. You're making big decisions, doing big things, and it's not exactly easy. Or maybe you're right there to approach these women like, oh, I look up to you. What do you do to make it to where you are now? And also to add to Bernie's point she mentioned about policy and whatnot. In my organization, we are currently working on the UK SPS, which is a UK government funded program which is seeking to help women founders, black founders, and settle minorities in the UK. And oftentimes, when we talk about policy, what we want to raise the importance of having the women in these spaces to emphasize and to kind of push these policies. So when we say, okay, let's do this for women, then women aren't there to push it and say, strategically make a decision that are going to actually make these plans that we say the men have made for us. It's very difficult for us to make them also actually get the work.
I will go with what Manuela has said, that this does not end the game, but women were being challenged to take the opportunity up. Let me say that certainly we are listening to all that's going on, and that had this last thing we had. The one who said empowering the woman. Let me also stress that you can empower the woman by educating them. And those are not educating them to learn and write and work with policies. So the basic things, I would always target it towards financing. Would you be surprised to know that at my age and my experience, it is the last 5 years or so that I got to know that there were a lot of funding opportunities that women entrepreneurs could access. And you know this. I think that the challenge is to educate a woman to know this. I have times of one that says funding agencies, and I have to my life. I present my proposal and it sounds like very fantastic proposal, but you have to miss it. Why? Because my graduates have started the project. Meaning that if I hadn't started the project, there was funding of about $2 million US. To support me. But I had started the project, and so I missed it. And I think that these are some of the education that can go the way to educate women. There is a lot more of such women entrepreneurs ready to move that without finances. Like I said, going to build a daycare center with what finance. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before I make my closing remarks, I think I have a question to answer, right? About the young ladies getting pregnant and what are we doing about the boy? There isn't a law that stipulates that a man who has made a woman pregnant must come forward. But what that young lady can do is to send him to DOPSI, right? There's a domestic violence unit that takes care of that situation and will be able to push for the gentleman to contribute to support the lady as much as he can, right? But the point is that how does that human even know that he can go to doctors? Majority of them do not know about it. So the point is to just be more public awareness. And my concluding remarks is that a lot of these barriers stem from our culture. The reason why this is happening to a lot of women getting pregnant, starting working on the spouse who's pregnant, because she has no support. The person who got her pregnant has run away. But if there is public policy and more knowledge that whoever got you pregnant, if you can find them, we can actually send them somewhere where the dogs unit will be in person to help you out. Perhaps that would be a bit of a deterrent for men to get women pregnant and run away. So that would be my comment. And then finally, like what I think everybody is talking about, is about financial inclusion, right? Mobile money, for instance, has done a fantastic job for women businesses in Ghana. But imagine what more can be done when these women have the knowledge, like Cynthia has said, that there is funding out there that we can access because they are women-owned businesses. So my two conclusions are changing culture and then access to finance and the knowledge that there is access to finance for women.
Thank you very much. So it says, oh, yeah, there is financing available. I want to re-echo that. So please, be curious, ask questions, okay, and think people. So like I thought, I know that as women, and most of us here have maybe deliberate and intentional about hurting other women. Isn't it? It's not nice for you alone to be at the top. Don't start up there. You're not writing the whole world with your alone there. So we need to be deliberate and intentional about supporting others. And I'm happy to see my colleague here from Executive Women's Network. What we do at Executive Women's Network is to help mentor young girls, okay? So the lady who spoke, there's a whole lot of executive women in Ghana whose job is to go out there and mentor young girls.
Or maybe one of the many big elephants in the gender room is the question of sexual harassment at work. And that's something that I think has probably not been raised here. Many public sector organizations do have sexual harassment policies because that's normally applied by the regulator. But in a lot of private organizations, explicit gender harassment or sexual harassment actually policies do not exist, or even where they exist, particularly in public sector organizations or regulated organizations, those policies are empty shells because there's usually a cultural fear that is created in these organizations. So women find it very difficult to report it, don't feel that they have the power to do so, and if they do, they're usually victimized, and that impacts on their career throughout that organization. And I think that's something that we need to tackle as well. Thank you.
And so there was a question that came around sexual abuse, and specifically about how victims would seek support. I know people are very skeptical about the strong system, but I will encourage you to give it a try. There is a hotline that has been set up with GovSU, and it is sponsored by UNFPA, and it is called the Orange Center. I don't know whether anyone has heard of it. And so if there is anyone who has experienced, or someone, a vulnerable person who has experienced sexual violence, you can just reach out to that number. It's simple, 0800-111-222. So 0800-111-222. Please give it a try, and if it doesn't work, it will be interesting for us to get some feedback to see how the response is simple. So please give it a try and then feedback to us if you don't get the kind of response you're looking for. We want to make sure we try and eradicate issues of sexual violence, and so just help us to help our girls. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's taken part in the conversation as well. Some of the key themes that have kept coming up for me have been around raising awareness of the support that exists already actually for women. So there are opportunities for financing through the banks, but through other organisations as well. There is a hotline for reporting sexual abuse. There is a network of executive women who all want to provide mentoring to younger women to help others come up behind them. But we need to make sure people are aware of that. The topic of mentoring and coaching has come up a few times. Just raise your hands for me if you do mentor young women currently. Keep your hand up if you enjoy doing it. Put your hand down if it's something you think, oh, I don't really want to do that. Put your hand down now if somebody has come to ask you for mentoring and you thought, oh, how rude, how dare they ask me to be their mentor? No, we love it. It's a really lovely feeling. So for all of you who are senior in your organisation, for all of you who run your organisation, let people know it's a nice thing to be asked to mentor someone. You should take a little bit of time to think about who you respect, whether in your organisation or outside, and have a little bit of courage to reach out to them, to get a nice feeling for them and insanity. So that's a little thing that we can all do. We talked a bit about pledges, about progress, about how they can drive progress. Again, that's another thing that we can all do. We can all, either in our organisations or just for ourselves, set ourselves pledges, set ourselves targets, and we can encourage government to do the same, coming together as a collective through organisations like the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce, through organisations like the Executive Unions Network. We've got that influence if we choose to come together and use it. We've heard also a lot about the role of men and how important it's been for, I think, many of us on a personal level, as well as when we look at society, how important it is to have men as part of the effort, to have men really understand what it feels like, what it looks like to be on the other side of the gender divide, and to have them understand how they can help. Because lots of them want to. And for me also, I think it's absolutely vital that way of thinking applies at home as much as it does at work. So again, thank you so much for being part of a really rich conversation. I hope that it's given you some food for thought this morning. I hope that it's inspired you to think what you can do, not just on International Women's Day, not just on Gender Month, but throughout the year. You as an individual, you've got power. You as a member of your organisation, you've got perhaps even more power, so we can all do a bit. And we look forward to keeping conversations like this going through the various networks of which you're a part, right the way throughout here. Thank you very much. Enjoy the networking. Please take some time to talk with each other. Thank you.
And there you have it, highlights of the International Women's Day brunch organised by the UK GCC to commemorate International Women's Day. And that wraps up this week's edition of International Trade Focus. Join us same time next week for some more on international trade-related activities in Ghana and beyond. My name is Anna Spew. Goodbye.